Okay, so many sun. I feel good, but you might not feel good looking at me because there's sun in my face. But I feel really good because it's really sunny and it's really late right now. That's why the sun is in my face because I've been reading a lot and that's why I'm recording my video late today. And I took so many notes. This is going to be a long video. So, more on this book. My Life by Bill Clinton. Oh, I read so much today. There's so much to talk about. So we begin with his reflection on the life as a governor, first governor experience of his. So here is what he said. I've been self-supporting since I was 20 and over the years had gotten used to cleaning house, running errands and cooking. Now other people cooked meals, cleaned the house and ran errands. So he's like really not used to it. And then he was talking about having more reflections on the life, not the politics, just life. And then he was saying how he can't drive his own car and he usually likes to go for a jog before and after work. Now there's someone following him and it's really uncomfortable. But then he eventually got used to it and got more paperwork done during the commute when the troop is driving him. Also, he also eventually got to them to agree to let him drive himself to church on Sundays. So that's some of the live reflection. And then before he become governor, there's an inauguration. And then so here is, and he made a speech, and here is like a highlight of his speech. So he said, I have believed passionately in the cause of equal opportunity, and I will do what I can to advance it. So, and then it's his governor time starts. First thing he work on is education system. A few things he start working on is a program that measures the students' performance so to know where to improve. And then to increase the teacher's salary and prohibited firing teacher for arbitrary, capricious, and discriminatory reasons. So these are the few things for education. And then there is he also work on highway and road program, which the obstacles is the funding for the road programs. It can raise fuel tax. It's bad for heavy cars, and heavy cars are owned by poor people. So what he did is that he increased the cost of auto registration tags. So um and then some other things to fund for build more highway and roads. And people feel the school effort is not as good for schools in rural area because they can't be able to get many jobs into poor rural areas. And then he comes to talk about he works on healthcare issues, which it just touches the rural area topic. He says what he did for the rural area healthcare is provide up to 150,000 of state money to any doctor who would set up a clinic in a town with 6,000 or fewer people, and family doctor in small town to apply for 6,000 a year in income supplements. So he's encouraging like doctors to go to rural area, and he's encouraging the doctors already in rural area to continue to be doctors so that people's health can be taken care of. Like when you are sick, you can go to the doctors. But then in 1980 economic downturn, they were forced to have severe cutback and they were never forgiven for not going slowly. So like sometimes the policies, if you're too fast and then accidents happen and then you can't continue, and people who like is already like motivated or they're already into doing these things would be like caught in a very bad situation. They might be in the middle of going to the rural area and then they don't have any more fundings to run the facilities and stuff like that. So you really need to think it through, to go slowly so that things can be um, steady and they can keep on going. And then he had also the energy effort, which is energy conservation, utility regulation, and at the same time cut people's utility bills considerably so they can have cooler summer and warmer winter. So, and sometimes you have to fight for doing what's right and get to the root cause of things, and consider everyone's rights as well. And then for economics, he decided to increase activity in European offices, trade mission to the Far East, which is Taiwan, Japan, and Hong Kong, and also handle hazardous waste product, so like dangerous waste product. In 1980, he already made some powerful interests very angry, like big companies and stuff like that. They were really angry because of the all the right things he's trying to do. But he also had initiatives he's proud of, and he think that's what matters. And a little note here, around that time, his wife Hillary is giving birth. They want to have a natural birth, but end up having a C-section. So, and that leads to, and then he talks about something happens really later on in 1993. They had a Family and Medical Leave Act, which by the time he left office, millions of people benefit from it and thanked him for it. I think it's like people can like when they give birth or have severe sickness, they can like ask to leave their work for a few months. And then coming back to like 19 78, 79, and 80. So there are some crises. There's a lot of crises. There's tornado, winter ice storm, and a terrible heat that kills hundreds of people and cause a lot of farm field to burn up because of it. And there is the KKK, and they have to avoid the violence. And there's also two waves of refugees, one from Vietnam, the other one from Cuba become a communist country, and there's a lot of refugees from Cuba, and there are refugees who just want to start a new life, but there are also reckless refugees, which cause local residents to be really like scared. And because of the recklessness and the scaredness, there were a huge conflict, and it's very dangerous. And for some reason, the federal troops didn't act on it, so he did. He contacted the state troops, and the state troops went to fire guns to the sky and scare off the reckless refugees, and they avoided a bloodbath, and nobody was killed or severely injured. So everyone's is safe. But when he after he did this, his boss and his colleague was like, oh, you're overreacting. And at the same time, the president tried to dump this responsibility onto him, of solving the Cuban refugee issue, the reckless people issue. And then also in the coming up election in 1980, there is a very completely negative TV ad about the conflict, like just showing the conflict and showing how they resolved it. And the locals residents were like, "Oh, why don't you kill those Cubans? You're going too soft." And they were angry at him. So like everybody is mean to him from how it looked like his colleague and boss, like the president, is saying, "Oh, you're overreacting," and then but the residents think that, oh, they're like very angry because you know how it's like these national or local defensive feelings and emotions that sometimes people just have deep hate when they are triggered or they are like their lives being threatened or feel treated unfairly. They feel extreme emotions, and also mostly because of the car tag, the automobile registration tag raised the cost of it. That he like 12% of the people who voted against him was in 1980 was people who got their car tags cost raised. And then he does feel pretty bad about it. Okay. And after he lost, Hillary went to thank all the workers, and he meet up with Hillary, his daughter, and a couple hundred diehard supporters, gave the best speech he could, thanked them for what they have done, and kept the whining and anger all to himself. And all his staff now have to find new jobs, and it is hard because they have offended all the big companies by trying to do the right thing. And Hillary was being really good to him in his awful periods and to keep him focused on the present and the future. Now he has to find a new job too. And one of his friends said, or his like connection said, if he wants he wanted another chance at elected office, he shouldn't try for party jobs. So, because after he was defeated in the election in 1980, which is 2 years after he was elected, so after the 2 years of governor, people who mostly offer him jobs are just party jobs. They're not serious. And he took the only serious job offered to him, which is a job at a law firm. While he was just living an ordinary life, the new governor tried to take away the funding from the healthcare and the highway effort, but everyone was against it because they were benefiting from these policies. And the new governor ended up making a trip to Taiwan and Japan, and then but he told everybody that he is going to the Middle East, and he was mocked by giving inaccurate information. And then so he was feeling pretty bad, and he traveled to Jerusalem to retract the steps that Jesus has walked. So to just for reflection, for healing, and just to find himself again. And then and then there were also a lot of people who said that if I were to vote again, I will vote for you. And then so he was motivated. So 2 years later, in 1982 February, he started a campaign again towards being the governor again, which is a really hard thing to do because no Arkansas governor was elected, then defeated, then elected again. So he doesn't know it can be done. So he was really scared. And then he apologizes for the wrong policy in the car tag. And then he promised to focus the future on what he think is important. And then Also, people were criticizing Hillary for not changing her maiden name. So he added Clinton after his full name. So he's called Hillary Rodham Clinton now, and announced it to the public, saying that, okay, I am with my husband's name now, so people wouldn't think that Clinton cannot handle his wife. And then there were some people who was not like directly affected by it, but then they said, I'll quote, he was a loser and we can't afford to lose. So that's why they don't want to vote for him. But someone else in the same situation, and the person who said it is a black man, and another black man said this. So he said, when Clinton become governor, crap was running open in the streets in my town. My baby was sick because we didn't have sewer system. Nobody paid attention to us. Now we had a sewer system. He did that for a lot of us. If we don't stick with the folks who stick with us, who would ever respect us again? So it touches people's heart, and then in 1982 he won again, and in 1983 he become governor again, and then he stayed in governor for 10 more years, which it doesn't just come like every 2 years they will have to have an election, but he keep on winning for 10 years. So what he needs to work on is unemployment rate, which is 10.6%, and too little money for education. And he have been working on them for the next 10 years, along with healthcare, environment, and prison reform. And then a lot of times they have to go through Supreme Court to fight to get things through. Some of the things he worked on is to have a kindergarten in every district. And then afterwards, they had 19 international tests for all the students. And then compared to the world, the American students was never the first or second, and are last in 7 times. Like in 19 out of the tests, 19 tests, 7 times the American students are the last compared to the whole world. So that's just how bad it is. So in 1983, hundreds of schools don't have biology, physics, advanced math, chemistry, and foreign language. They don't have these courses. And then here is a quote from Clinton. We couldn't create more jobs without improving education. So he started working on education. What he did is require all teachers and administrators to take and pass national teacher examination. It started in 1984, and in 1987 it's fully effective. During these 3 years, the teachers were giving free tuition to take the test again if they failed. So if they maybe the first time they have to pay to take the exam because to run the exam costs, but then to retake the exam if they failed is free, and they can take as many times until they pass, until 1987. Then maybe the rubrics more strict, because a lot of teachers are already teachers and they have to stay teachers, so that's why they need 3 years to have it effective. And then what they also did was help dropout students to get high school diploma for the student that wants to. And then there are people who's criticizing him. People are like, oh, the test is so hard. You're racist towards black students. And then some people, there's this Dr. Heckley. He said Black students has been held back more by low standards and low expectations than by discrimination. So, and then later on proved that black students do like the examination because at least they have something to work towards, to have a rubric to prove that they're capable, you know. And then, but then in the re-election, the AEA, I don't know what that is, but they refused to endorse him in the 1984 election. But the students' test scores are raising steadily, so they are improving. And then the teacher's salary also raised by $4,400 annually. It's the fastest growth rate nationally. And then they worked on jobs, which Clinton quote what happened after. In order to accelerate jobs and income growth, we have to restructure our economy. So he started restructuring economy. So he started by doing this, allow state chartered banks not only to lend money but also to make modest equity investment in farms and small businesses that couldn't borrow any more money and give them the right to buy it out within 3 years. So, to invest in them and to lend them the money, they will need to pay interest. That's how people buy houses. And everybody knows that. I don't need to say how it is. And then, but I don't know if before they're not allowed to buy it out, and now they are allowed to buy it out within 3 years. So if they like earn the money back, they don't have to pay interest anymore by paying it out, and then they're free from debt. And then he set up funds for victims of violent crimes. And then build economy is also ongoing. So this what some of the things that he did. Meeting with big company presidents, ask Walmart for help, trade and investment mission in Europe and Asia, get big steel company to come to Northeast Arkansas. So that's some of the effort that he made. But then people still criticize him, saying that he created jobs so he can tax them more. And then there is also other issues like rural areas are high in tax but hadn't got the new jobs he was bragging about. So like there's some like loopholes, some things that he couldn't cover, so it's not perfect. And then in 1986, there was another campaign, so it's re-election again. And Hillary was attacked because his law firm is fighting to save Arkansas's money from the Grand Gulf nuclear plants. But they dodged a bullet because Hillary did not take extra money from this case. They only worked on it, and then his law firm take the money, but Hillary did not take any more money from it. Then another TV show attacked Clinton's brother, but Clinton's brother and mother is very strong, so they were not so hurt by it. And then there are people who says good things about him. I will quote one here. My wife and I are going to vote for you because we needed more jobs like this. So, and then in the end, people vote for him again in 1986. So, in 1987, he refined his analysis on globalization and interdependence and desire for good beginnings, good schools, good jobs. So, like, only when you better your own life, you can worry about international things. So now he bettered the lives of his state, and then he can make some international effort. and um and then during that time, they someone come up with the idea of microcredit, which is like small loans to people in need. And then he talks about during his president time, which is many years later, that the US Agency of International Development funded 2 million microcredit loans a year in poor villages in Africa, Latin America, and East Asia. So they did a lot of good. And go back to governor time. So there were some important things that he was also doing, which is welfare prevention and reform, to promote work, not welfare, independence, not dependence. So, and then also to reduce adult illiteracy, teen pregnancy, school dropout rate, alcohol and drug abuse. So to reduce these things. And back to welfare prevention, how they helped it is to help them with education and training, medical care, child care, job placement, not replacement, sorry. And then he thinks that most people do want to work and support their families, but face barriers. And if they take low wage jobs, they would lose food stamps and medical coverage. So they need a good job so that even if they lose the medical coverage and the food stamp, they can still live a life better than they lived before. And that's how they would be able to work again. So to encourage that, and then one woman, Lily, it's example. She's an example. She found work as a cook. She said she'd rather work or she would be watching soap opera all day, so she preferred to work. And also, when she worked, her boys go to school and people ask him, "What does your mama do?" And they have a good answer. So, and Clinton think that Lily is what welfare reform is all about, to have more people find work and be able to support family and live a better life than they have on welfare and live with dignity. So that's okay, so that's all that I need to talk about. It's so long, so I'll end the video here and I'll read more like next time.